The Auburn Tigers are the #1 overall seed. Let's go!
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast, your daily show about the #1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby. He, of course, is the Darrell Dapprich Montgomery radio legend. And we've been telling folks, and a lot of Auburn folks said, no, there's no way. There's no way they could be the #1 overall seed. They are. I mean, one of the most impressive regular seasons of all time. It pays off. It pays off, and Auburn is the #1 overall seed, which obviously Bruce Pearl and this team absolutely deserves that.
Well, what it tells me is, first of all, I think the committee looked at the whole body of work. They looked at the total resume. They didn't base it upon trends. They didn't base it upon who was hot. They didn't look at recency bias. I know that a lot of the talking heads keep saying over and over, Florida's the best team in the country right now. Okay, that's fine.
They are right now. They are.
And that's great. And I agree. They're playing better than anybody in the country right now. That can change really quickly, as Auburn found out last year. And it's the body of work. It's just not who's playing the best over the last 2 weeks. I think that's a really great compliment to Auburn, that despite how well Florida is playing, the committee still said they've earned the #1 overall seed. And to me, Zach, I think this was wrapped up on that afternoon in Rupp. I don't think anything that happened after that determined. There are some people that think, I think when they clinched the SEC title at Rupp impressively and absolutely boat raced Kentucky, I think no matter what happened after that point, it was sewn up. And Lenardi and Jeremy Palm and some of those other guys said the same thing. Now, there are some that argue if Auburn wouldn't have won that game against Ole Miss in the SEC tournament, but I like you, don't think that the tournaments matter. And just look at like Michigan and what happened today with Michigan and in Wisconsin and in the Big Ten. I mean, Michigan looked really good. They're a 5 seed. Wisconsin's a 3 seed. I don't think conference tournaments matter when it comes to seeding.
No, and they might for bubble teams in the first few rounds of conference tournaments. Like, I think the SEC certainly benefited from that. Texas certainly benefited from that. But yeah, I think once you're already in, it doesn't really seem to impact it that much. And we saw that last year when Auburn won the SEC tournament. We saw it in 2019 when Auburn made their Final Four run. It didn't really seem like seeding, but they beat Tennessee, right? Until Tennessee was seeded ahead of them that year. So, we knew that. We knew that going into it. But as far as the draw, I just have such a different opinion on this than some of the louder Auburn fans have had so far. I love it. I saw the list of teams, Darrell, and I'm like, okay, awesome. Let's hang out with, Michigan. I guess Michigan would be in the Sweet 16. I mean, you just look at it in Alabama State and St. Francis. Okay, like I think those were the most recent in most of the brackets. Well, it was Alabama State and St. Francis. But then like the 8-9 matchup between Louisville and Creighton, which Auburn will play the winner of, assuming they take care of business. I just don't mind it. I understand the home field thing for Louisville, but I think there's a few elements to this. One, like I think Creighton is better than Louisville, for one. And two, when has this team played its best ball? When other teams are yelling at them, neutral floors, or even sometimes on the road. I mean, so to me, I don't mind it. I don't mind it being virtually a home game for Louisville. Darrell, are you there? All right, I'm gonna hop you out. Darrell, hop back in. When you're, I see you moving down there, Darrell. If you feel like it's good, come on back. But I love the matchup that Auburn would eventually have with Louisville or Creighton. Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, I'm back. I agree. I think that the Louisville thing is because people are overreacting to playing that game in Lexington. And I think people are also overreacting to the fact that Louisville got to its conference championship final. Okay. But if you look at the whole thing, and I'm not saying Louisville's a bad basketball team, they're not, but they have 4 quad 1 wins. 4. Mm-hmm. The ACC is a weak league this year. We've been saying it all year. They got 4 teams in the NCAA tournament as opposed to 14 by the SEC. Auburn's played its best basketball to the point you were making before on a neutral floor. They will travel. Auburn fans will travel to Lexington in droves. I don't think we need to worry about that.
Right.
So I get it, but I kind of tend to agree with you. I think Creighton's the one you need to watch out for there. Creighton's a really good basketball team that played in a tougher league. The Big East was a lot tougher than the ACC.
Creighton is like everybody's saying, like Auburn got screwed. Creighton got screwed. Creighton is the team who gets screwed in all of this. But let me just once again, and this goes back to the conversation we had after Auburn lost to Tennessee yesterday. What Auburn went through in the SEC tournament and the last week of the SEC regular season is different than what they're about to see from a competition level and just from an overall matchups standpoint. So once again, we're assuming Auburn takes care of business against Alabama State or St. Francis. After that, when you look at the matchup between Creighton and Louisville, here are the other 8-9 matchups that are like, just to say, like, here's where they're at. Here's what we're looking at. Mississippi State is an 8 seed. How'd Auburn do against Mississippi State?
Boat raced them without Broom.
Without Janai Broom. That's right. The other one is UConn and Oklahoma. That's an 8-9 matchup. How'd Auburn do against Oklahoma?
Boat raced them.
That's right. That's right. And then the other one is Gonzaga and Georgia. How did Auburn do against Georgia?
Won the game.
Played them twice, right?
Played them twice, swept them, and both times. I don't think. I mean, it got a little bit hairy on the second one, but still, I think you consider one comfortably.
Yeah. I mean, you took care of business, and so once again, when folks are like, "Well, Auburn's not playing their best ball," it's like, well, thankfully, they don't have to right now. They don't have to play their best ball. They need to play their best ball in a week and a half, and they need to use this next weekend, these next 2 games, hopefully, to tune up and do everything that they can. I mean, Florida right now, today, is the best team in college basketball. But a lot of people were saying that about Auburn this time a year ago, and it didn't work out. Somebody put up a bracket or a graphic of like what the last 5 years SEC tournament championship winners have done, and they aren't going super far. I mean, you've got Bama and Auburn in 19, Bama last year going to, or I guess 2 years ago, going to the Final Four. But outside of that, there's really no correlation as far as consistent success in the SEC tournament to consistent making a run in the NCAA tournament. So once again, I mean, I said this after the Tennessee thing, like whatever you say, like, I'm not saying that like you're wrong for thinking it. I'm just asking you to be consistent with what you're like using as like what is actually important in all of this.
Well, Auburn won the SEC tournament last year and Alabama went to the Final Four. 2 years ago, Alabama looked like world beaters with the Brandon Miller year and all that. They got beaten in the Sweet 16.
Right.
And I had a family member, as we were watching the selection committee that I'm here with, make a great point. And he said he saw a statistic where 14 of the 21 conference tournament winners didn't get out of the Sweet 16. I mean, last year. I mean, that's just like a stat that you look at and go, okay, you reset. You hit the reset button when the NCAA tournament starts. And it's a completely different deal. It's a completely different mindset. Everybody's rested. You started to get that, you're refreshed. You're revitalized. And like, a neutral floor is a neutral floor. And again, Auburn's used to playing in Lexington. Auburn just had tremendous success 2 weeks ago in Lexington. And you think Auburn likes playing in Atlanta? If they get out of the Lexington bracket, of course they do. And State Farm Arena will be a sea of orange and blue.
Somebody, Darrell Dapprich fan, says that we're playing at 2:50 Eastern time. What day is that on?
Thursday.
We're playing Thursday.
Yes.
So will Alabama State and St. Francis play Tuesday? Is that how that works? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Got it. Do you care that you're playing a play-in team? Does that matter that they get?
I want Alabama State to win for obvious reasons. I mean, there's a connection there. It's pretty cool. I'm very happy for them to get into the tournament. So I'd like to see them beat St. Francis and a team just outside of Pittsburgh. And
somebody else is saying 150. So
150 Central, 250 Eastern. Right. I think that's what.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He said it. Yeah, exactly.
Time zones, man. They always get
it's be me right now and try to figure it all out when I'm talking to you and I'm going, okay, where are we? But anyway,
right.
But so, yeah, I think that I love the play-in thing. I love that. And that's what you earn when you're the number 1 overall seed. And I don't know, Zach, if you saw the listing of all the seeds 1 through 68, 69, whatever it is, like they rank them all, and St. Francis is 69 and Alabama State is 68 or whatever. I mean, so that's what you earn when you're the number 1 overall seed.
Yeah. And Auburn should take care of business against them. I mean, just physically, there's just a major mismatch between the two. And that's what it should be. And that's what we kind of see consistently. Now, the issue with all that is like anytime there's these, 15-2 upsets or 16-1 upsets, it has to do with the other team shooting lights out. I think having guys like Denver Jones and Chad Baker-Mazara and Miles Kelly certainly lower the risk of that happening.
I wonder too, the Virginia University of Maryland Baltimore game, which is the only 1 versus 16 upset. I don't believe that Virginia was the number 1 overall seed. I think they were a number 1 seed, but I don't know if a number 1 overall seed. And make no mistake, Maryland Baltimore is at a different level than St. Francis and Alabama State is. They were a good they just are, and they had good shooters. Yeah. So this is a situation too where people need to look past that first game and what are the benefits of playing somebody that you should beat handily. Well, the first benefit is you hope you're able to play a lot of players. You hope you're able to go deep into your bench, give guys like Ja'Kai Howard, Jaheim Hudson tournament experience. Right now. On the other side of that, what's 8-9 going to be? Probably a slugfest, probably a battle, probably
usually the best games.
Usually the best game. You're going to have to expend a ton of energy, hopefully and realistically, to get to that second round. Well, Auburn should, in theory, have business taken care of by halftime.
Farley Dickinson beat Purdue as a 16-1 upset as well. That's right.
They did.
It never happened before. Then it happened like back-to-back years or something like
True.
that.
And I'm just wondering if Purdue was the number 1 overall seed, just to make the original point. I don't know.
I doubt it, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, and that was with Big Boy. That was with Zach Edney, but he wasn't a senior. He was a junior. Yeah. And then remember, Zach Edey. And then remember what they did the next year. They got to the championship game. So
which is similar to what Virginia did.
What Virginia did, yes.
Unfortunately.
Correct.
Yeah, so I think, the amount of storylines and the South bracket from an Auburn point of view, it's insane. First round, you obviously have the whole, hopefully it's Alabama State, in-state thing, which Auburn played Jack State a few years ago. That's the year we lost to Miami, I think.
Correct.
And then, obviously, if they play Louisville in the second round, it's a home game for Louisville, which, we were all super excited when we got to play Houston and Birmingham a few years ago, and it didn't work out. So, does that matter? I don't know. But then you've got Yale on the other side. I doubt Auburn's going to run into Yale in the Sweet 16. I hope they do. Honestly.
I hope they do.
As the 13 seed, I think that's what Auburn fans should be cheering for. I'd rather play Yale than any of the other 4 teams that are, or the other 3 teams that are on that side of Auburn's bracket there. But yeah, obviously with Yale and then with Michigan, the whole Trey Donaldson saga is super, super exciting. And then obviously Texas A&M is a likely opponent in the Sweet 16 as well. So there's a lot of fun storylines that could shape out in the South bracket from the perspective of the Auburn Tigers.
I saw a lot of people. Like on CBS, 2 people, Seth Davis and somebody else, picked Yale to upset Texas A&M in that first round game. And I want to remind people and kind of soothe some nerves and make people understand when I keep seeing this crap about Auburn has the toughest bracket, Auburn has the toughest path. Is there ever been a harder path than what Auburn faced in the Maui tournament? Are you kidding me? And guess what the difference was? It was back to back to back to back. You get a day off and then 5 days off and play again. So Auburn's used to playing really good. Memphis. They almost had to play Michigan State. Think about that. If they'd have played Michigan State in that tournament, who got upset. Iowa State, they played some good teams in that tournament. North Carolina. So, and to me, North Carolina is a similar basketball team to Louisville. I know Louisville's better as far as overall body of work, but North Carolina won 8 out of their last 10. And played Duke a lot better.
Yeah, so somebody, Michael said that the experts on ESPN had us making it to play Michigan State before losing. So that would be the Elite 8.
No, Michigan, not Michigan State. They had us getting beat.
This guy's saying Michigan State.
Michael. Oh yes, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, I saw them where they were a couple of predicted Michigan to upset Auburn.
And Michigan and Michigan State want to play each other in the Elite Eight. That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't happen, but that'd be crazy. I don't mind the draw. I don't mind it.
I'm not worked up about it either. The worst thing that could have ever happened was that stupid graphic where they took an average of all the seed numbers and the lower numbers, the hardest region, and Auburn was the lowest number at 31. And Duke's region was 36, and Florida's was 36, and Houston's was 33. And so there started the upset. Oh, Auburn they're the number 1 overall seed, and they have the toughest bracket. I don't know. I mean, you got to consider.
I want all the national folks to say Auburn stands no chance. That's what I want at this point. The disrespect during the regular season, I think, was one thing. Now I think you want it because you needed the respect to get the draw and to get the attention and to get the accolades that I think help with building a program, and it's the extra stuff that Bruce Pearl can have in his pocket from recruiting. I think all that stuff matters. You and I had a conversation about that a few weeks ago. I think that stuff matters. Now it's done. Now it's just you win. They got the number 1 overall seed. They got the respect that was reserved. But this does seem to be like a pretty doubted 1 seed. And there's usually one every year. It's not usually the top number 1 overall.
No, it's not. It's not. It's usually the one that they stick out west. It's the 4th seed, right? The 4th number 1 seed or whatever. And it is unique. I will say this without being a conspiracy theorist. It is unique that the team that is the number 1 overall seed on paper, in theory, but they don't play basketball games on paper, and they don't play them in theory, and they don't play them in La La Land. They play them on a hardwood. In theory, it's the hardest bracket, but not when you get out of that first 2 rounds. It's not when you get to go to Atlanta. I think that makes up for that significantly.
I guess so. And then on the other side of it, if you can get to the Elite Eight or even the Sweet 16, I mean, if you get out of the first weekend, which means beating Louisville or Creighton, which I still think is going to be Creighton. Everybody's freaking out about the Louisville thing. I think Creighton's better. If you beat Michigan or Texas A&M or Yale, I think Michigan State is the weakest of the 2 seeds.
Do you?
I do.
All right, so let's talk about who the 2 seeds are. They're Tennessee, Michigan State, St. John's, and Alabama. Good point. They got beat in their conference tournament in the semifinals. Of course, so did Alabama. St. John's won their tournament, and Tennessee got beat in the final. So yeah, there's a good argument for that.
And then I'm kind of picking Ole Miss to make a bit of a run here. I like how they're built with this and where they fit in the SEC. The issue for that take is they play Iowa State in the second round if they win, and I don't want to play Iowa State again. I will say that. I don't want to play Iowa State again.
Iowa State guarded Auburn as good as anybody all year, although Tennessee probably, when you look back on it, the 2 games, Tennessee really did a good job because Auburn figured it out against Iowa State in the second half and exploded. But that first half, it was just smothering, and I think Auburn was down double digits. You're right, but I think the thing about Michigan State and St. John's that concerns me as 2 seeds is I've always been told by former coaches, when you get to the NCAA tournament, veteran coaches and coaches that have experience in the NCAA tournament matter. And Nobody has more experience than Pitino and Izzo. Of course, they both end with O, and that matters, right? They're paisans. They got those good Italian names. And I think so. I do believe that matters. Now, Nate Oates has had some experience in the tournament, and Rick Barnes. But let's be honest now. As good as Tennessee is in the regular season and in SEC tournaments, Tennessee has that reputation of underachieving in the NCAA tournament. They've not been to a Final Four. Rick Barnes has gotten beaten in the second round a lot. He's gotten beaten in the Sweet 16 a lot when he's had really good basketball teams. Izzo and Pitino are two different stories. They are used to it. Yeah,
that's a good point. So all of the, I don't know, I'm just blown away by the amount of folks that with everything Auburn's achieved this year. Louisville's the concern. Louisville's the argument of why Auburn has such a tough draw. I just we may lose to Louisville. I just have a hard time expecting that. And I think a lot of people are expecting. It's just odd to me.
If you are somebody that loves any type of historical angles to basketball seasons, and I know, Zach, this won't mean, and I get it, I'm just throwing this out there for some of the olds. Auburn was making an incredible run in 1986, and guess who beat them and kept them out of the Final Four? Louisville. How sweet would that be all these years later to kind of, I know it's completely different teams, completely different eras, but it'd be kind of cool that Auburn had an opportunity to avenge that in a tournament game. And it's just, there's some cool aspects of that. Louisville's a traditional program. Look, when you get out of round one, you're playing good basketball teams, period. Sure. Why do people think you're going to play cupcake centrals that are an 8 or 9 seed? Now, you may have some teams upset people in the first round, a 10 seed, an 11 seed. You're still playing good basketball teams. They're still good basketball teams.
Yeah, they are. They are. But once again, we compared the 8-9 seeds to the other 8-9 seeds, and they're all SEC teams that Auburn handled for the most part. Or maybe they didn't handle them in an individual game, but they swept them. They beat Ole Miss 3 times, and Ole Miss is a 6 seed. I mean, I don't think a lot of folks that maybe just watch Auburn basketball but don't watch college basketball realize how brutal the schedule was. I still don't think they fully get that. 14 SEC teams made it. That's insane. That's crazy. Imagine being an SEC team that didn't make it into the tournament. So, hey, today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. And right now, if your first $5 bet hits, you get $200 in bonus bets, Darrell. $200 to make sure you're ready for the tournament, which is obviously going to be very, very exciting. Auburn, you can bet on Auburn to reach the Sweet 16, which a lot of Auburn folks don't think that they are. And let me tell you, you can make a lot of money if you don't think Auburn's going to make it to the Sweet 16. They have Auburn at -410 to make it, which means it's not worth betting on unless you don't think they're going to. Plus 290 to not make the Sweet 16. So if you just want a hedge bet, I think that's your line right there. And then it's not much different to reach the Elite 8, -180, and then plus 140 to not make the Elite 8. So Vegas thinks Auburn's going to win. Vegas thinks Auburn's going to make it to the Sweet 16 Elite 8. Get over it on the action at FanDuel.com. All right, Darrell, what angle of this bracket have we not touched on that you think we need to?
Wow. Gosh, we've covered a lot. I think the one thing that we haven't spent enough time on that's very underrated is we tend to focus on the teams rather than the venue. And I really believe just getting out of those first 2 games and getting into the Sweet 16 is going to be a tremendous advantage for Auburn because of how comfortable they are playing in Atlanta, fan base, crowd, all that. You just get there, and it's a big deal. I really think so.
I'm with you. Let us know how far you think Auburn is going to make it. Very, very excited to see what all is going to happen. And of course, we'll recap even more of this tomorrow morning on Locked On Auburn. Darrell, how can people check out everything that you've got going on?
Follow me on X, Dap6410, Instagram, Darrell Dap, and then I'll be with you throughout the week. And, of course, we've got these live shows now. It's tournament time, so we'll be going live right after the games.
Yes. It'll be a blast. So I guess that'll be Thursday afternoon. So, but once again, we drop usually multiple shows every single day. So be sure to subscribe, whether you're listening on audio or if you're tuned in on YouTube. Subscribe, comment, like the video. And if you're listening on audio, please leave us a review. Helps the show out a ton. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.